Welcome to round 3 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of October 3rd. I'm Terry Morrow, and I'm here with Catherine Haleko.
Hello.
And Nicole Eridix.
Hi there.
We're moms of teens and young adults, and when it comes to parenting, we've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. But we're still waiting for that day when we'll reach the finish line and have no further need to lay down in a dark room with a wet rag over our eyes, worrying about something or other. Wednesday is Complaint Day here on Parenting Roundabout, and today we are complaining about the stresses of senior year. Our kids' senior year, or actually more specifically, Catherine's kids' senior year. What's stressing you right now, Catherine? Can you delineate it, or is it just like a mass of free-floating stress?
Well, I think I have more of that. So Grown and Flown has an article, it's your kid's senior year, 5 things not to be stressed about. So I thought we could discuss whether or not we are or were or have been stressed about these things.
This is funny.
Because number 1 is where everyone else's kid is going to college. And I would say that I don't stress about that. As I have said on this podcast before, I am very curious about that. I want to know.
Yes.
But I don't care. Like, I don't, get upset and make comparisons to where my kids are going. I mean, and I just want my kid to go somewhere. Like, I'm stressed. The way that I'm stressed about other people's kids is that, they might get to go and he might not, or, or he, he'll go, but, he might be starting out in community college, or he might be starting out somewhere that isn't quite one of his ideal choices. So I'm definitely more like, I have enough to worry about with my own kid than to be worrying about where other people's kids are going. So I don't know. Was that your experience, Terry?
I didn't worry about where anybody was going at all, and I knew my kids were going to community college, and I wished them all well in their many endeavors hither and yon. Not a stress at all, but I imagine it was stressful for you, Nicole?
I mean, we kind of knew, the application process was stressful. I don't think I was stressed about necessarily where other kids were going, because I knew that my kids had a different route. Like, they were looking at different options and different majors. So that made a big difference as well. Like, one of her friends wanted to go to journalism school. Another one wanted to do research. So that really impacted where a lot of these kids wanted to go. So so I knew my daughter wasn't going to go down certain paths. So and then we just really tried to look at affordability. Because we were not jealous of the people who were sending their kids to $80,000 a year schools. You go.
Good
luck with that. Enjoy.
That is insane.
I was curious, like Catherine, of course. I was I was all into the whole, who got in here? Who got in there? Oh my gosh, how did they get in there?
and I do have, because of the way, like what you're saying about what my kid wants to do, there is some competition among him and his friends that are trying to do the same thing. So I do have a little bit of that,
Right.
So, in some cases, they might be competing for the exact same spot.
Right.
So, but I will try to just wish them well.
Having kids with no ambition makes this so much easier.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next stressor, which is senior pictures. I would say I was not stressed out about that. We did like a friend's mom who is a photographer. So she is a professional photographer. But we just had her do them, and it was pretty casual. There were maybe 2 or 3 changes of shirt. Like, it wasn't a whole, like, wardrobe change. And we just did it in the park by our house. So it wasn't like a really super elaborate photo shoot. So I would say, and when my daughter was a senior, she took care of it. She's like, just pay this person. Like, she hired the person. She made the arrangements. She went to they went to like the state park, and she brought like 6 outfits, and it was a whole thing. But she did it all. Like, I didn't have to think about it. So.
Nice.
Wow.
So I don't know. I mean, I think I feel like I remember, Nicole, when your daughter was a senior, talking about how some of the other kids would do these super photo shoots that were like kind of off the hook.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty big deal. Like, I mean, we did well, and Kristen, she had her own idea of what she wanted to do, and so we kind of went with that. She chose the photographer, and then we just forked over the money.
Right.
I don't think there wasn't. I mean, she went with somebody who wasn't local. So, because we have a couple local photographers, and then everybody's senior picture ends up looking the same.
Right.
So she wanted something a little bit different. But it worked out well. I really like her photos. There wasn't anybody else's photos that I went, oh, we should have had that.
Right.
And it's just such a moment in time, right? And then it passes, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, and you're like, what was I concerned about? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Terry, you have your insurance sales photo to remember that this time.
Yeah, our kids just went to the gym at the high school, and they had all sorts of things set up to take pictures with different props. And then we picked what we wanted, and it was no big deal. No real effort.
Yeah, our school didn't.
Gotta love no real effort.
They're cheesy, but they're fine.
Right. I'd say no real effort is always...
Yes. Of course, expense, but not to the same degree probably as hiring a photographer.
No.
It's such a racket,
Right.
How many of these do you need? It's more and more expensive. But
right.
I'm glad. I mean, I was happy for them to do it, but it was about the same level as when I was in high school. You just go someplace, you sit down, somebody takes your picture, and
we will link to. We had actually a whole discussion about this that we replayed recently, but we can link to it. So
yes.
The next stressor is senioritis, and I would say I'm not worried about senioritis because my kid cannot coast this year whatsoever. Like, I'm much more worried about like him actually doing his work that he needs to graduate. So no, senioritis is not a thing because he cannot afford to have senioritis.
You used up all that itis time in your younger years.
You sure did.
Now. Yeah.
Indeed.
Person in our family who had senioritis was me. I was so ready for that last kid to get out of school. Yes. I am done with this. So that was,
Yeah, I can for sure see myself feeling
no
that
more
way.
IEP meetings.
Right.
Yes. No more control of these people over my life. Yes. Oy, that was great.
Did your kids...
So much less stress.
Right. Did your kids have it, would you say, Nicole?
No, because they were in a couple of IEP or AP classes. So they had to keep up with that. And I think they were just really eager to get it over and done with. And they knew that their admittance into university depended on some of their grades, their final grades. So they weren't too bad. I mean, my son probably more than my daughter. She was eager. It's a little bit different. She's in her senior year of university now, and maybe senioritis is hitting her.
Yeah,
in university. Although she's stressing now about grad school. It's like, oh my gosh, one thing after another.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
Yeah. So she's senioritis in university is hitting different.
Right. Yeah, talk to me in like May, and then I may allow myself to feel a little bit of senioritis. But okay, so the next stressor on this grown and flown list is prom and homecoming. Do you stress or not about whether your child is going to these things and the whole like promposal and all that junk?
Goodness.
So, I mean, I have to confess that I say that I don't care, but I do care. So, and homecoming is this weekend, and my child is going. So,
oh, good.
Oh,
that is nice. Yes.
Are we going to see some homecoming photos?
Yes, and giving me more notice than last year, which,
yes,
if you recall,
that.
Will you iron this shirt for me? Why? Because I'm going to homecoming. What? Okay, this year I have actually been informed in advance. So
yeah, it's nice. We like that.
But yeah, I will admit that last year, which was not my kid's senior year, but I was a little disappointed because some of his friends went and he didn't.
Right.
So
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, I was concerned as to whether or not she was going, like, and not, but just because I didn't want her to miss out on that. Like, I knew that some of her other friends were going, and like, given an opportunity or given a choice, my daughter would much prefer to stay home.
Yeah.
and but her friends would go, and then she'd lament afterwards about how she didn't go. So I knew that I needed to push her to get out. So, a lot went into that.
Yeah. I mean, my daughter didn't go to any of the dances all through school, and it bothered me more than it bothered her.
Yeah.
And I know with prom, senior prom, there were people saying, oh, you can just go. You don't need a date. You can just go. But no, you can't. And also, she didn't want to. I would have had to push her to do it, and that doesn't make sense. She wouldn't have had a good time.
Right.
So, I kind of had a little heartache over it, but I'm glad she didn't. Really didn't care. And with my son, he has had this sort of girlfriend in name only for years and years, and they did go to the junior prom with one of his buddies. So the three of them went. And I remember we dropped them off, and then the moms all went to the mall nearby, and we were just going to have dinner and, hang out until it was time to go pick them up. And they called us really early. They were done.
They were all done.
So given that experience, when it came time for senior prom, his girlfriend wanted to go, and the mom called me and said they should go. But he had just had he had his ruptured ulcer surgery.
Oh, right.
And, there had been some stress leading up to that involving, girl trouble. So I just felt like, do I really want to push him to do this now when he's just out of the hospital? And I don't know if he'll enjoy it. I couldn't get any information about whether anybody would be able to keep an eye on them. And I was very worried about that. So I just said no. He didn't care. I think he would have I think he didn't want to go. And so I didn't push it. But, he could have. He absolutely could have. If I had said you're going, he would have gone. And his girlfriend would have been very happy. I think she went by herself, actually. Or with a friend, with some friends.
Right.
But again, neither of my kids, it was only a thing for me. It would have been very, oh, there's my boy going to the prom. I would have been so excited. Let's get a corsage for your girlfriend. What color dress is she? It would have been a big deal.
Yeah.
And a big landmark for my kid who had, had an atypical journey from school to have this big landmark thing. But I was able to let it go. And, I think that was the right thing. I don't know. Should I made him go? I don't know.
I say no.
So that was my only shot to have a kid go to senior prom, dang it. But right at that particular moment, right after his medical crisis and stuff, I was like, you know what? None of this stuff matters. Who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and my daughter didn't get to go to senior prom because of COVID.
Oh, that's
right. She was in that year where
we still have the dress.
Oh, that is heartbreaking.
We still have the dress. If anyone is interested, you can contact me on Twitter or Facebook because I have a beautiful dress that never got worn.
Oh, that was so sad.
Yes. So, I mean, she didn't have a boyfriend at that time. She would have gone just with a group of girls, but but she certainly would have gone. Yeah. And she did. She really wanted like the experience of trying on the dresses and buying the dress, and she got that. So that is the consolation prize. So. So the last stressor, according to Grown and Flown, that you should not stress about is knowing your kids less and less and fighting with them more. Basically, this is about how it's that whole soiling the nest phenomenon. Like, by the time they leave, you're like, please go. So they're kind of saying, like, that's normal. Don't worry about it. So...
Yeah, I can't say what that's like. I'll let you know.
Right, because yours haven't.
10 years. Maybe the time they're 40.
My daughter didn't really, like, we didn't have that, I would say. But again, her senior year was totally weird because of COVID. So who's to say? If it had been normal, would she have acted like a jerk and I would have been happy to see her go? I don't know.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's common, right? I'm
trying to think if I acted like a jerk. Well, I always acted like a jerk. It wasn't something unique to me leaving for college.
Oh my God.
I was a very spoiled young lady, let's just say.
Yeah. My kids were pretty good. They didn't have any major grief.
They were pretty chill.
They were pretty chill. Yeah. We didn't really go through a lot of soiling of nest situations.
I feel like I've heard people complain about it more with like when they come back.
Oh, yes.
You know, like if they leave for college and come back, even if it's for just like a summer or if it's for longer, that it's hard for everyone to live together after they have not been.
Yes.
Well, you had some of that, Nicole.
Taste of independence.
Well, when she came back.
I'm not saying that your kids were acting bratty when they came back, but they did come back.
Yeah, they did come back. My daughter was home for over a year with COVID.
Right.
You know, with the whole COVID thing. And so she had a really hard time reacclimating. And she let us know. So there was a bit of a struggle there. But, and then my son came back too after he finished university.
Right.
So he came back for 2 years. And he wasn't as bad as much as bad, but it wasn't as challenging as with my daughter. But it was understandable. She had a lot of things going on.
Yes.
My daughter never left, nor does she have any desire to, but she's about had it with us. So what she would like very much is for us to just be, entirely different.
Right.
Not have opinions.
If only you were a different person.
Yes. If we could just not have opinions, and if we could do things completely opposite of our personalities. If I could shut up more and my husband could talk more, she would be very happy. And then also stay out of her business unless she needs us to be in her business. Yeah, it's we have a bad roommate situation here right now. But and forever. Anyway.
Well, there you have it. Those are the 5 things not to stress about. And I believe I've admitted the things I am stressed about. And I think they are justified. Thank you very much.
I agree. Well, thank you. That was fun. And it was fun in recalling certain events, but it was a good
that you were now
chance
past
to revisit. Mm-hmm. So that's it for today's round 3. Tune in tomorrow when we'll obsess about Apple Watch features we'd like to see, and then on Friday to see what we've come up with for our Roundabout Roundup picks this week. Find all our episodes at parentingroundabout.com and talk back in the comments there, on our Facebook page, or on Twitter, where you'll find us at Roundabout Chat.